The United Kingdom of Israel. Lesson number 7. The demand for a king. First, it is to be known that throughout the United Kingdom of Israel, God was worshipped by Israel, all 12 tribes, in a tabernacle, even the tabernacle of Moses. As you can see the picture, the 12 tribes are pictured around the tabernacle. The fire of God is coming from heaven, burning the sacrifice. The problem with this tabernacle is when it rained, it was portable. So when it rained, they had to pack it up. The idol worshipers could worship their gods because they had houses for them. But our God was worshipped in a portable tabernacle. And when it rained or snowed or any kind of inclement weather, they couldn't worship God. They had to fold the tabernacle up. So God wanted a house. And Solomon, David was going to build it. God rejected David building it. And Solomon built him a house. The tabernacle of Moses is found in Exodus chapters 25 through 31. But then King Solomon built a temple. And King Solomon's temple was a non-portable version of the tabernacle. That, therefore, if it rained or snowed or whatever, this beautiful edifice was a place to worship God, and it was much better than the idol worshipers, for it was overlaid with gold, and there was so much furniture and the vessels of the temple. All of this was accomplished in the United Kingdom of Israel. The King Solomon's temple is found in the book of 1 Kings chapter 6 and 7. He built it and dedicated in chapter 6 and 7. Israel demands a king. Prophesied. The model king in God's eyes. Here's a picture of Samuel, the prophet. Did God want a king for Israel? God did want Israel to have a king. He just had a certain kind of king in mind. In Deuteronomy 17:14 through 20, long before the time of Saul, God said, "Be sure to appoint over you the king the Lord your God chooses." Emphasis added. Why did Israel want a king? Another reason it was wrong to ask for a king is that the Israelites did so in order to be like all the other nations. God had created Israel as a unique people. He was their leader. When the Israelites wanted a king like other nations had, they were rejecting their unique, set-apart position as God's people. Now we'll read Deuteronomy 17:14. When thou art come unto the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee, and thou shalt possess it, and shalt dwell therein, and shalt say, I will set a king over me, like as all the nations that are about me. This is Moses prophesying in Deuteronomy that they're going to want a king. And God said in verse 15, Thou shalt in any wise set him king over thee, whom the Lord thy God shall choose. One from among thy brethren shalt thou set king over thee. Thou mayest not set a stranger over thee, which is not thy brother. Verse 16, But he shall not multiply horses to himself, nor cause the people to return to Egypt, to the end that he should multiply horses. For as much as the Lord hath said unto you, ye shall henceforth return no more that way. Neither shall he multiply wives to himself, that his heart turn not away. Neither shall he greatly multiply to himself silver and gold. And it shall be, when he sitteth upon the throne of his kingdom, that he shall write him a copy of this law in a book, out of that which is before the priests, the Levites. And it shall be with him, and he shall read therein all the days of his life, that he may learn to fear the Lord his God, to keep all the words of this law and these statutes to do them, that his heart be not lifted up above his brethren, and that he turn not aside from the commandments to the right hand or to the left, to the end that he may prolong his days in his kingdom, he and his children in the midst of Israel. So God has spelled out the model king in his eyes. And of all the things he picked, one, he said, I want a king that will not multiply money and horses to himself, will not multiply wives to himself, that will write a copy of the word of God and will read it all his life, that he may learn to fear God and then not be lifted up above his brethren, and don't turn aside from the commandment to the right or to the left. That is the type of man God wanted as a king for Israel. Now let's see, did the day come when Israel actually asked for a king, and did they pick such a man? Israel demands a king, fulfilled prophecy. And it came to pass when Samuel was old that he made his sons judges over Israel. Now the name of his firstborn was Joel, and the name of his second Abiah. They were judges in Beersheba. And his sons walked not in his ways, but turned aside after lucre, money, and took bribes and perverted judgment. Then all the elders of Israel gathered themselves together and came to Samuel unto Ramah, and said unto him, Behold, thou art old, and thy sons walk not in thy ways. Now make us a king to judge us like all the nations. But the thing displeased Samuel when they said, Give us a king to judge us. And Samuel prayed unto the Lord. And the Lord said unto Samuel, Hearken unto the voice of the people in all that they say unto thee. For they have not rejected thee, but they have rejected me, that I should not reign over them, according to all the works which they have done since the day that I brought them up out of Egypt, even unto this day, wherewith they have forsaken me and served other gods, so do they also unto thee. Now therefore hearken unto their voice, howbeit yet protest solemnly unto them, and show them the manner of the king that shall reign over them. Samuel warns them about the kings. Verse 10, And Samuel told all the word of the Lord unto the people that asked of him a king. And he said, This will be the manner of the king that shall reign over you. He will take your sons and appoint them for himself, for his chariots and his horsemen. And some shall run before his chariots. And he will appoint him captains over thousands and captains over fifties, and will set them to ear his ground, and to reap his harvest, and to make his instruments of war and instruments of his chariots. And he will take your daughters to be confectionaries, and to be cooks, and to be bakers. And he will take your fields, and your vineyards, and your olive yards, even the best of them, and give them to his servants. And he will take the tenth of your seed and of your vineyards, and give to his officers and to his servants. And he will take your men servants and your maid servants and your goodliest young men and your asses, and put them to his work. He will take the tenth of your sheep, and ye shall be his servants. And ye shall cry out in that day because of your king, which shall have chosen you. And the Lord will not hear you in that day. That's important. When you want something so bad that you disobey the command of God, then God will give you what you want, but he won't hear you when you complain about it. God grants the request. Verse 19, Nevertheless, the people refused to obey the voice of Samuel, and they said, Nay, but we will have a king over us, that we also may be like all the nations, and that our king may judge us and go out before us and fight our battles. And Samuel heard all the words of the people, and he rehearsed them in the ears of the Lord. And the Lord said to Samuel, Hearken to their voice, and make them a king. And Samuel said unto the men of Israel, Go ye every man unto his city.